Melina Mekia Lohanui Yaka Kopakahia Pau. Welcome to today's Kanaeokana Talks, created for Kumu by Kumu. Today we will be sharing Pedagogy of Aloha Online number 2, how to design Hawaii-centered curricula for online teaching. Today's presentation will be done by my mama, Kahakalau. O wau no o polani makamai ka owako kalani Kahakalau, keiki ana le a Kahakalau, o ai pi o ku'u a wawa, o hi ilawe ku'u ka Hawaiian, o vai o lena ku'u kai, o hilo ku'u o nehanau. Aloha. Before we get started, we would like to center ourselves by doing our opening protocol with Aloha Eie. Aloha Eie, Aloha e na akua, Aloha e na aumakua, Aloha e na lio Hawaii, Aloha e na kūpuna, Aloha e na makua, Aloha e ka lehulehu, Aloha e ie. Aloha mai kako o wau o ku hina hina, kui kaha kai Kahakalau, a o ke ia ku'u ohana. O Honolulu ku'u o nehanau, o Makua ku'u kai, o Hawaii ku'u moku puni, o Ka'u ku'u moku, o Kilauea ku'u lua pele, o Waipio ku'u awawa, o Kukui haile ku'u kulana kauhale. Just so that we are all on the same page, can you please summarize one more time Pedagogy of Aloha? Yes. Pedagogy of Aloha starts with relations. We have found out over 35 years of research have shown us that the most important part for a successful educational experience is strong and positive relations that are grounded in Aloha between students and teachers, between teachers and other staff and ohana, and also between the students themselves. And the next part that is really important is that it's relevant, that the curriculum is relevant, that it makes sense. And then the third part is that students have to learn that they have a kuleana to their learning. And when we do these three things, start with strong relations, make sure what we're teaching is relevant, and making sure that the students understand their kuleana, then we're going to end up with things that are rigorous, whether it's academic or cultural rigor, and hopefully if we do it right, then we should also have fun in the process. If we follow the formula, today's webinar centers around relevance. Is that so? That's correct. So today we're going to be talking about relevance. In other words, education that makes sense. Because when it makes sense, it's also automatically interesting and fun, right? If you don't know what's going on, it doesn't make any sense to you, you're not going to be interested, and I don't think you're going to be having too much fun. And so basically, how do we integrate relevance in online education is our challenge, right? Because many of us have already developed relevant education as classroom teachers, but now we have to switch that to an online environment. Well, just like in the classroom, your curriculum should still be student-centered, meaning it should be student-driven. The student should have an input in what they want to learn and how they want to learn it. It should also be as much as possible personalized, which you can do really great in an online environment because you can give people individual assignments and you can monitor them individually so that students can study and research on their own at home, and it works really great. It should also be culturally driven, right? Because that's what makes it relevant for Hawaiians, is if it's connected to our culture. It should be place-based, because that's what makes sense to us, is the trees that grow in our front yard, the plants that grow there, the animals that we see when we look out the window, rather than about things somewhere else on another continent that is not relevant to us at all. It should also be community-based. You know, for us right now, Hilo is one of our communities, and so Hilo should be integrated. You know, what's happening in Hilo? We should know what's happening there because the more it's connected to our community, again, the more sense it makes to us. As much as possible also in the environment. And there, you know, for so many years, we've had such a hard time taking the students out of the classroom. There's so much red tape involved in taking the students out. Well, now you can send them anywhere you want to send them. It's their kuleana to get there and get back again. But, you know, if you assign them something where they have to go down to the beach, then that's what they have to do. If you assign them something where they have to go mauka and gather something or get something, that's what they need to do. So now you can really integrate the environment at a much larger level than you could before when you were pretty much classroom bound. And then as much as possible hands-on. You know, our keiki love to learn hands-on. So the more you can create relevant education that's hands-on, the more the students will respond to it. The idea is, you know, for us, we don't just learn for learning's sake. You know, we don't learn so that we get good grades. You know, we learn so that we maalama that learning and do something with it, and therefore are responsible for that learning. And so the more we do things that make sense, the better we do them, right? If it doesn't make sense to me, again, I'm not going to put any effort into it. But if it makes sense, if I understand why I'm supposed to learn it, why I'm creating that, and especially if what I'm creating makes a positive impact, then I'm going to put more effort into it. And so when we are looking at the kind of curricular focus in an online environment, we really need our curriculum to be Hawaii-centered, which means that our knowledge, the knowledge of our kūpuna, which they told us is lehu lehu and mano mano infinite, that's the foundation of the curriculum. And then we integrate language and culture into all content areas. And it's not only for Hawaiian language teachers to integrate Hawaii, but it's for everybody to integrate and start with Hawaii as the foundation. And so it's local history, local knowledge, local strengths, the idea of the ike that comes from our place that is emphasized first, and then we can go outwards. So the more our projects are hands-on in the environment, that also allows us then to develop a relationship with the āina, with the environment. And the other part about using relevant curriculum is that hopefully the things that the students study and the things that they learn will allow them to become creators of information, right? So it's not just about, oh, you know, study about your community, but what can you do now to help your community? What kind of things that can you produce that are going to make a difference for your community? So no matter what it is that you teach, your island, in this case, it's Oahu, but you know, if you're on another island, it's your island, is the center of your curriculum, regardless of what content, whether it's PE, whether it's science, whether it's health, language, arts, math, it starts right there in your community. And then we move out in concentric circles all the way to the ends of the earth, as far as I'm concerned. But it has to start here, because that's the only way that we can make our curriculum relevant, is if we start at home. If we start with the things that our students know and that they're familiar with. And so one important part about that, you know, to make your curriculum relevant is Ike Hawaii, right? The knowledge of our culture and our traditions. So one of the things, for example, that you can use in almost every single subject area is to talk about food preparation, right? Food preparation can be used in science. How does an imu work? You know, what is the scientific principle between that wood and then the banana and the things that give it the moisture, etc., etc. You can use it for health. You know, how do I porno? Language arts. You know, what kind of stories do we have? Recipes, how to write things. I mean, there's just so many opportunities for the students to prepare foods at home and then tell you about it. Certainly in the Hawaiian language class, you know, they can cook for their family and then make a little video on how they created that food, and then share that with their friends in their online classrooms. Another thing is traditional skills and functional arts. You know, maybe you don't know how to weave lauhala, but I bet you there's a YouTube video out there that shows you how to do it. And so instead of you as a teacher having to worry about it because you really don't know how, you send them to these YouTube videos. You know, you post those videos, You find them for them, you post it for them, and they need to watch those because they watch YouTube videos to learn other stuff too, right? Why not learn Ike Hawaii using the resources that are already online and doing things that you would never be able to do in the classroom. Another thing is getting involved in traditional sports and games. Again, there are opportunities in the communities. It's not makahiki season yet, but it will come around. Next thing you know, it's going to be November. There will be makahiki games in the communities happening. Have your students participate in that. Go out into the community and participate in traditional sports and games. Chant, hula. Again, lots of YouTube videos where they can learn chants, where they can practice them. And same thing with hula, or they can join halau and bring that Ike into the classroom. So that doesn't have to be every student, but for those who love that, who thrive, they should have that as part of an opportunity to integrate that into their projects, into their assessments, one way or another. Hawaiian music. There's so many live online music sessions happening right now. Have them, sing along and play along with some of our most beloved entertainers that are giving of their time, and of their talent to share music with us. This is a wonderful way for students to sing along, to play along, and then do their own as well. Protocol. We believe that protocol is doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And the purpose of it is to really strengthen relations between Kanaka, āina, and Akua. And so that's kind of what we would ask the students to do. So it's not just when they're in school that they do their protocol, but that they get used to doing protocol as a way of life, right? So when they get up in the morning, they do protocol. Before they eat, they do protocol. If they're planting, they're doing protocol, so that they get used to this being a real life thing, not just something staged that we do before class starts. And there are just so many different ways that you can integrate protocol. So for example, you started this morning with Aloha Eye, and when we're going to close this webinar, we're going to close it with Mahalo Eye. So here we are, we started and ended our online class with protocol. When you're interacting and greeting with guests, you can also use the protocol. When they enter a house or when they enter a forest or sacred site, they should know chants that will allow them to enter. And as I mentioned, if we are assigning them projects where they have to plant food, which I would highly recommend, again, same thing, before they plant, before they harvest, before they eat, they should do the appropriate protocol. And so what this engaging this traditional protocol will allow them to do is to interact with the elements and with the spiritual world, right? Which is something really powerful as well. When they understand that when they ask for permission, maybe there's nobody there to answer them verbally, but they can feel the wind all of a sudden picking up, right? Or they feel the sun that wasn't really there, all of a sudden, boom, it's right at them, right, kind of thing. So it's those kind of things for them to understand that there is really communications going on when Hawaiians chat to the environment or to our Akua. And as I mentioned, there are just so many opportunities to get these videos and share them with your students. And then, like, this is a video of E Homai, a chant that many of us know. This is a way that they can just learn that strictly online, and then when they have to perform it, then they know how to do it already. The other thing is, as far as Ike Hawaii, you can still use all your basic Hawaiian words and phrases in an online environment just as much as you could in the classroom, right? So instead of saying, "Are you ready?" Ma kau kau, tell them ma kau kau. And the more you use the language, even if your subject is not Hawaiian, the more we will all normalize Hawaiian language again. And it's just simple things, ho'opili mai, repeat after me. Simple words like that, that they just get ma'a to without, you don't really have to teach them. You just use them all the time, and they will get ma'a or used to them. Same thing how I introduced myself earlier, allowing me to share where I come from makes my my relation to the land something that's relevant to me, right? If I don't know what my mountain is, that means I have no relation with the mountain, right? If I can tell you my mountain is Kilauea or my mountain is Mauna Kea, whatever it is, that shows that I have a relation. If I had to explain my relation, I certainly could, right? So that idea, that makes sense to Hawaiians too, right? You explain where you're from, and you can explain why you pick these places that have shaped you into who you are.
You mentioned the importance of place. Can you give us some specific examples of how we can integrate place to make learning more relevant?
Yes, so place-based education is Hawaiian-based education, right? That interchangeable, āina-based, place-based, pedagogy of aloha, education with aloha, they're all the same in that we tap our place, but we also tap the people in our place, like our ohana, kūpuna, people in the community as resources, right? So that's one thing, that we use place and the people within that place as resources, that the ike comes from there, right? That the āina is our textbook, right? The āina is our inspiration. When we first went down into Waipio, I don't even think we had composition books and pens. I'm not too sure. They had to do journals, but we really had no textbooks, right? We were just going for a whole month, immersing our students in Hawaiian language and culture in the valley, living off the land, and the environment became our text. We watched where are the clouds coming from, how fast is it going to rain, or is it going to be a really hot day today? So maybe then we'll do another activity because we don't all want to be out there dying in the heat kind of thing. We'd rather sit in the shade making something, and then when it gets cooler, then we go outside. But all those things, text the valley, the waterfalls, the ridges, all of those things become our textbook, right? And then we engage in real world learning, right? So again, not just learning for learning's sake, but we're actually doing something to this place. We're improving this place. So on the top here, on the right side, you see these people. You were part of this group that were in YPO every other week, from Monday to Thursday, looking at the effect of 100% stream restoration on native fauna and flora, and you folks, what you researched made a real difference, right? It wasn't just, somebody wrote a paper now, throw away in the rubbish after the teacher read it, and that was it. No, the things that you learned actually made a difference in terms of how stream restoration is looked at in Hawaii, period. And so you, the students, become co-researchers as you engage in authentic research, in real world research. Another thing is that we have to get our students to know their place, right? So one awesome thing about being in YP or every other week from Monday to Thursday was that you really got to learn all of these things about YP, right? I'm sure you could name dozens of place names, right? You know all kinds of stories and histories about the valley. You know lots of songs and chants, olelo no iao, the names of the winds and the rains, right? If I asked you that, you could tell me all of that about Waipio because you got to know that place. And so many times our students know so little about their place. This is an opportunity now to assign them projects where they can learn about their place, right? Because much of this information is online, right? And they can find it. And if they can't find it, then they can ask for help so that you can help them find it, or they can work together in groups to find relevant information. The other part is that, as I mentioned, as part of protocol, they can learn how to introduce themselves to place, right? Kunihika Mauna is an oli that's been around since the time of Hi'iaka. When she got to Wailua, she asked to cross that river there by chanting this place, and this was the vista that she saw. She saw Wailua, she saw Kawaikini, she saw Kaipua'a. But this chant now has become a generic chant for anybody who wants to ask permission to enter a certain place, a forest or a mountain or whatever it is. It could be a heiau, it could be even a hale. And so learning these chants so that when it comes time, they know how to behave appropriately, right? They know how to chant themselves in, and then it makes sense to them again. As I mentioned, food production, this is an awesome time now to engage your students in projects at home or outside of the home, whether that's their front yard or their backyard or the park down the street or the ocean that they go and surf at. Um, in some ways, learn from that environment, monitor, go kilo and observe that environment. Look what the waves are doing from day to day, or look what the plants are doing from day to day, and really get used to knowing what's around you. Also, my son-in-law did this fabulous assignment. He had his Hawaiian language students cleaning house and then taping themselves on video explaining in Hawaiian. These were Hawaiian language students, middle schoolers, how to clean house in Hawaiian. Now, that is project-based also, maybe not in the environment, in this case, in the home environment, right? All the parents loved the assignment, by the way. But it was also something that was relevant to the student's life, right? They all should know how to clean house. Not that they all do, but that's one way that you can get them to learn that. Plus, in this case, olelo Hawaii. We have so many lessons out there that connect place. Here's a wonderful resource that connects math, science, traditional place names, and mo'olelo in a single lesson. And it's from the area in Nanakuli. And again, these are all online, and you can see how to adapt that to your place and your reality. Other things that students can do that are relevant is to solve real problems in the community, whether they're social, economic, or environmental problems and issues. They can become involved in community activities where community members try to do something about whatever it is that is causing a problem, or where they have an issue, rather than just waiting for somebody else to do it. Our environment, and our way of life are in danger, and this is one way, by working with the community, that we can come engage and protect those things that are important to us, and at the same time revitalize our Ike Hawaii and the practices and traditions of our kūpuna. It's so important that our students develop a strong relation with the land, and that is something that makes sense to them. When you grow food, when you grow any kind of plants, you will see the process happening right in front of your eyes. And you'll be able to understand things that you could never understand in a classroom or even in a science lab. But when you're right there in the environment, you see it happening, it makes perfect sense. As I mentioned several times already, food sovereignty, where are our students going to learn how to grow food? And we always say we're 90% dependent on outside food. We need to change that. But who is teaching the next generation how to grow their food? This is an opportunity now. Yeah, this time of change and moving into an online environment is an opportunity to assign our students with projects where they have to grow their own food and do some research around that in, as I said, any subject area that you want to. You can integrate growing food as one aspect of it. And because they're home now, there's no reason why they cannot. Even if it's just one pot of green onions or a tomato plant, or chives, or other kind of parsley, whatever it may be, that doesn't take too much room, or lettuce, things that grow easily, but just so that they understand that that is something that they need to know if we're going to be getting more sustainable as far as food is concerned here in Hawaii. The other thing is practicing sustainability at home. We talk about recycling, blah, 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 but how many of us are actually practicing it at home? Here you can give them assignments on, first of all, doing waste audits. What kind of rubbish are you producing at home, and where is it going? How is it being thrown away? Is it just all going in one rubbish bag, or are you recycling, let's say, plastics and cans, etc., bottles, paper, whatever it is. And then once the students have done their inventory and their audit of what happens in their home, then you can encourage them to make recycling projects, right? I know you are genius when it comes to doing recycling projects. You've done so many different projects, recycling paper, recycling all kinds of things that I thought was going to be material, old material, whatever, to make new things. One thing, for example, with paper that you can make is papercrete. And you can create beautiful stepping stones out of papercrete. If your milk tends to get spoiled before you have a chance to drink it, you always have some left over. Have them look up how to make milk-based paint and paint something, just to see what's the difference between that paint from as far as smell and getting headaches, etc., compared to a commercial paint kind of thing. So many opportunities for them to do that kind of practice recycling at home and making it relevant rather than just a subject area. Now, when it comes to integrating technology, there are also all kinds of ways that you can make your curriculum more relevant. For those of you who are familiar with Kahoot, please use it as often as you can. And if you're not familiar with it, make yourself familiar, because it's so much fun, and it allows you to test existing knowledge, test information that was just presented, review information from the last time, review information from multiple classes, review information for the entire semester or even the school year, and have fun at the same time. I think the more we can integrate technology, the more relevant it's going to be for our students, because they don't want to read. They don't want to get 3 pages of instructions on how to do something. They want to get things that they can use technology for to understand, but also to create. And so using technology, give them projects where they're allowed to create things, right? There's so many issues right now. Can they do an advertisement about one of those things that can possibly go onto the radio? Years ago, we had a wonderful lady that worked with us at Tilani, and she was really into eating colorful vegetables, right? So our students together with Atilani created a song about eating kalakoa foods or something like, yeah, eat kalakoa. I forget but they got it because nonprofits and schools can get free radio time. So they went to the radio, they recorded it, and even now, decades after, you can still once in a while hear that commercial about eating colorful foods on our radio here on Hawaii Island. Other things that the students can produce are calendars, particularly moon calendars or tide calendars, all of those kind of things. Greeting cards, they can design T-shirts and hats. They can create posters, banners, buttons, and bumper stickers. But these would all be what I would consider authentic materials, things that actually makes sense, right? You're not just writing a paper that the teacher reads and throws in the rubbish, but you're actually creating things that people can use and that people can learn from. And I think that really is the important part on the relevance.
I think many of our viewers have worked hard over the years to make their curriculum relevant. What are some online resources besides Kahoots that you showed us earlier to design relevant curricular?
That's a really good question. So one thing is, you can definitely create your own webinars. This advertising here is done by Canva. Very easy to do, and then create your own webinars where you talk about a topic, maybe not a whole hour, but maybe 10 minutes. And then and videotape yourself, and then the students can watch that anytime, anywhere, and then have activities around that. Another thing is going to the places that are already offering information and sending you and giving your students the links so that they can be part of what's already out there. So Kanaeokana, the Lei Anuenue, been doing a fabulous job in connecting people through culture. These are things not just for teachers or for adults, but students can watch these as well and learn from there. Other resources that are online is, for example, Ka'iwa Kilo Moku, Hawaiian Culture Center. So many awesome things there that you can send your students to engage in and to learn from, whether it's chants or whether it's reading stories. that are all in an online format, which means they're concise, they're to the point, and they're interesting. Another thing is, we have our online Hawaiian dictionary. So really, for the students to be using the language, they have no reason why they cannot look up words, right? If they don't know exactly which word to pick, then that's something that you can talk to them about. But using our online dictionaries, because they're there for us, and we don't really use them enough. The same goes for ulukau. We have this fabulous electronic library. We have the most things that were written by Hawaiians for Hawaiians in the Hawaiian language than any other indigenous people. So the largest indigenous library, and much of it is online now, and much of it can be accessed through ulukau, whether it is the books but also the newspapers. And using that. Giving the students assignments where they go to a specific ulukau resource and read the stories or do research with specific things, put in their family name, for example, into the newspapers and see if anything comes up. And then if it comes up, try and translate it. So there's so many things that can be done there. And then Kanaeokana also has a fabulous waihona or resource list. And as teachers, you should get access through your school if you're working at a Kula Hawaii. And I highly recommend it. So many awesome videos there that you can share with your students and have them look at. The other part is Quizlet. We use Quizlet and we really love it. Just the flashcards is one thing, that's a nice way to learn olelo Hawaii, but anything that you need the flashcards for. But then it also has the Quizlet Live, where the students actually can play against each other, and that's always a whole lot of fun. So in most of our online classes, we do at least one Quizlet live every time, because it's so much fun to play against one another. So that's one that I would highly recommend for the students to use to test some of the materials that you have covered. Another thing is, not as hard as you think, is to create actually your own apps. There's an app that's called Glide, and it's very easy to make your own apps by using Glide. And so this is a class that we are teaching for a group of students at Papakolea, and we're teaching Hawaiian language through cooking. And so we put all their cooking vocabulary and some other basic vocabulary onto this app. We also have them practicing sentences on top there. And so that's also something, if you're a little bit more familiar with technologies, you can create your own apps that are specifically tailored over the vocabulary, based on the vocabulary or the content, the songs, the chants, videos that you want your students to learn. And then they have that on their phone, and they can carry it with them anywhere they want to in order to study and get more familiar with the materials.
Right now, many teachers are a bit overwhelmed by the challenges of teaching online. Are there any advantages or pluses to teaching online?
I think so. I really believe that the use of technology is something that we have not been capitalizing on the way we could. And I think the reason is that, certainly teachers my age, they're probably all retired pretty soon, but, we did not grow up in in an age of technology. And so for us, it's always a little scary, right, to try new programs and new platforms that we're not used to. I think the younger, obviously, that the teachers get, the less fear of technology do they have. But even the ones that are just coming out of colleges of education, I don't see them using technology as much as they could when they were in a regular classroom setting. Well, now is your opportunity really to fully use the potential of technology to make your teaching relevant, right? By having students doing research. And the important part there is, that there's so much information out there that what we have to teach them is basically the ability to discern what is correct information and what is just um, out there, literally, and especially when it comes to things Hawaiian. There are things that are promoted as being Hawaiian that are as far away from Hawaiian as you could possibly be. But it's a sexy word, Hawaiian is very sexy. So they want to be Hawaiian, and they put stuff out there that you're just going like, OMG. So for students to look for that, to find some of that absolutely ridiculous stuff that they're talking about and claiming it to be Hawaiian, but then also looking at primary sources, right? And learning from that. There's so, like, David Malo's Hawaiian Antiquities, Kamakau, all of that is online now. And most of it is on Ulukau. Now students can read all of these things without having to purchase any books, right? They can have it on their phone, can carry it with them. And that's just the reading materials. And then we have videos, right? We have millions, billions probably of videos that are out there that our students can learn from and want to learn from. Because most times if you ask a younger person whether they prefer to watch a video or read, I would say the majority of them would say watch a video, right? So definitely videos, podcasts. Some people really love podcasts. They're washing their dishes or they're doing something with their hands.
Convenient.
Right, and they just listen to a podcast. So find those kind of that talk about your subject matter, and rather than giving the students articles after article after article to read, which we know they don't. Why don't you give them a podcast? Why don't you allow them to listen to watch a video? Because chances are they're going to respond better. And then when it comes to assessment as well, right? Then you also allow them to be assessed through video. So rather than having to write papers, and I'm not saying writing is not important, but unless this is a language arts class and you are really working with them on their writing skills. In many other classes, the more important part is that they understand the content matter, and so they can, instead of writing, they could do a video as well, right? Or they could even do an audio recording and then send that in using technology that way. This, our phone right here has become just an invaluable resource. So for me, for example, one of my favorite books in the whole life world, as my daughter used to say, is Olelo no Iao. And so I have Olelo no Iao right on my phone. Where is see, this is me looking for my camera. I have it right on my phone. When I'm sitting in the car waiting for something to happen, or I'm standing in line, I just open that up and I thumb through it. And even though I have looked at these Olelo no Iao for the last 30 years, there's still going to be some new ones that I've never seen before. And so many of those things, if they're important, have them put it onto their phone. The Olelo no Iao cost less than $20. I think, for a school to invest in a Hawaiian focused school, for every keiki to have Olelo no Iao on their phone, I think is a well worth it investment. And so I think really technology is a wonderful, wonderful way for us to all learn, make our education more relevant. And then, there's so much software as well that we just have to learn, in order to use it properly. So, we started out with PowerPoints, and then you folks had Pressys for a while. I don't see too many people doing Pressys anymore.
Not often.
Yeah, and I'm not quite sure why. But there's different ways that students can present their information, and do it, using an online technology. For students to create their own websites. There's Wix and whatever that are so easy that anybody can create their own website, let's say, for example. And then, as I said, with the phone, you can do your audio files and even your videos just so easily nowadays that nobody, or take pictures, right, that nobody has an excuse anymore when it comes to both using technology to gain information, but also using technology to present information, right? To show what we have learned. Another thing that I think is also a great advantage when it comes to relevance and online education is that now we can do experiments in and outside of the home. In a classroom, you'd be lucky if you have a sink, right? Many classrooms don't, unless you're a science or home ec teacher. You usually don't have a sink in your classroom. So there's very little things you can do, without water, let's say, as far as experiments are concerned, things like that. Now they have most students have a kitchen at home where they can make so many things. Not always don't always have to be edible. You can mix flour and colors, to make Play-Doh. You can make finger paints at home. All of those kind of things, and then do something with that, right? If you have younger students, let them make their own Play-Doh, let them make their own finger paints, and then have them painting or playing, creating things with that. And then all that, so the younger ones can do that already. Then all the parents have to do is take a picture of that painting, take a picture of that Play-Doh animal or whatever it is that they created, and then upload it to a website. And everybody knows how to do that, now in general. I mean, there's a few exceptions, but in general. So, and then I really want to emphasize again the opportunities for our next generation to know how to grow their own food. At one point in time, Hawaiians, besides being told, that we were, not smart, right? That we were not any, uh, not industrious, all of those kind of things. We were also told that it's not cool, it's not forward, it's not modern to grow our own food. And somewhere in our head, this thought settled that we just don't grow our own food. Something that it's better to get food in cans, that it's better to get food that's shipped in from way somewhere else that's old or non-tasting and hard, whatever. And we gotta change that mindset. And I think the only way we can do it is by actually offering those experiences, right? Because to me, the only way that you can get fascinated about growth is if you actually see it, right? Somebody can tell you all about, oh, my tomatoes, blah, blah, blah. But if it's your tomatoes, right, that are flowering, and then your tomatoes are coming out, and then and you get to eat those, there's a whole different relation there. And so I really challenge all of you, no matter what it is, as I said, that you're teaching, to think about how you can integrate somehow over this next school year, having your students growing something. And it's really, it could be other utilitarian plants. It can be, all kinds of, doesn't only necessarily have to be food. But I think that that concept of growing food is really, really important. For all it's worth, we also at Kuakanaka have created a education with Aloha curriculum guide. And if you're interested in that, that really shows you how to plan your curriculum, including online, then email us and then we can talk story about that.
Mahalo nui for sharing, Mama. How can people find out more about your pedagogy and your research methodology?
Well, if you want a copy of the PowerPoint, just email me. And then if you want to read some of the things that I wrote, you can go onto our website, www.kuakanaka.com. And in our resource section, there's multiple papers that I've written. Usually I just write chapters in books. And I think a few webinars or interviews as well that talk more about pedagogy of Aloha. And then you can always email me as well.
We would like to close today with Mahalo e. Mahalo e.
Mahalo e ka lehu. Mahalo e nā mākua. Mahalo e nā kūpuna. Mahalo e nā lio Hawaii. Mahalo e nā au mākua. Mahalo e nā akua. Mahalo e.
Mahalo nui for joining us.
Aloha.